Welcome to my channel. My name is Marianne. I'm an indie author, and in this video I want to talk about this book, Sensibility by Jane Austen. It follows the story of Elinor and Marianne who leave their home at Sussex after the estate goes to their brother on the death of the father. They go to live in the country and things start to go from there. But before that, we see Elinor growing attached to Edward Ferrars, who is the brother of their brother's wife, Fanny Dashwood. Fanny Dashwood is a mean and a horrible character, and she's clear about her disapproval of a possible relationship between her brother and Miss Elinor. In the country, Marianne meets her love interest, John Willoughby. She goes out into a little adventure, she twists her ankle and falls, and Willoughby comes to her rescue, and that's how they meet. She also meets 35-year-old Colonel Brandon. He is very attracted to Marianne, but she initially rejects him because she saw him as an old bachelor who was unable to fall in love or inspire love in anyone. She doesn't write in details about the characters' physical looks. She focuses more on describing the characters' internal traits. There's a sense of comedy in Jane Austen's writing, but not the hilarious type of comedy. It's the comedy that stands out of irony. She has an eye for the quirkiness in people's characters, and she sheds light on the absurdity of the situations her characters go through. She also adds characters like the Palmers and Mrs. Jennings, who are mostly the comic relief of the story. Mrs. Jennings is an extremely talkative woman. She's always ready with a remark or a story. She must always say something. Mrs. Palmer is a woman with a bubbly personality. She is described as someone who smiles all the time and only stops smiling when she's laughing. She's partnered by Mr. Palmer, who is the exact opposite of her, always serious and stern. Austen drives comedy from the situations where Mrs. Palmer gets snubbed by her husband and she makes fun of his ill manners and insensitive remarks. So let's talk about our two main characters, Elinor and Marianne. To know more about them, first of all, we need to understand the title of the novel. Sense and sensibility are what Marianne and Elinor represent in the story. Sense means rationality and prudent thinking, and that is what Elinor brings into the story. She's always in control of her actions. Marianne, on the other hand, is sensibility, which is the capacity of feeling and being affected emotionally. In other words, sensitivity. That does not mean that Elinor doesn't have feelings or emotions, but Marianne tends to express her emotions with exaggeration. So the word sense here does not mean the lack of sensibility. It just means the refined expression of emotions. Elinor doesn't reject the feelings of love and suffering. She only judges them with wisdom and reacts to them with prudence. So the main difference between Elinor and Marianne is not in their feelings, because Elinor's feelings are strong too, and not in their brains, because Marianne was also clever. The difference is in their prudence and in their ability to judge and govern their feelings. Of course, in the novel, Austen is shipping sense over sensibility, because Austen's novels fall under the category of a novel of manners, which basically focus on the social customs of a certain class of people, mainly in the early 19th century England, because I think it's safe to say that Austen invented the genre. For those of you who are studying this novel and need to memorize all the names of the characters and the settings, I'm going to break them all down here for you now, so stick around. So first, the Dashwoods. Henry Dashwood has 4 children. One from his first wife, his name is John Dashwood, who inherits everything because he's the male and that was just how things were at the time. And he has 3 daughters from his second wife, Elinor, Marianne, and the youngest is Margaret. Joan is married to Fanny Dashwood, and she has 2 brothers, Edward Ferrars, who is Elinor's love interest, and Robert Ferrars. Their mother is Mrs. Ferrars. Edward was secretly engaged to Lucy Steele, the nephew of his tutor, Mr. Pratt. Both her and her sister Anne Steele are the cousins of Mrs. Jennings. Marianne's first love interest, Joan Willoughby, has an aunt called Mrs. Smith. We don't see her in the novel, but she has an important role in the story because she has an influence over her nephew's life and his choices. Now, the family of Mrs. Jennings. They are the people that Mrs. Dashwood and her daughters meet when they move to the country. Mrs. Jennings is a widow. She has 2 daughters, Mary, who is Lady Middleton, and Charlotte, who is Mrs. Palmer. And she has 2 sons-in-law, Sir John Middleton and Mr. Thomas Palmer. I'm not sure why there are too many Jones in this book. Remember, we have 3 Jones: Joan Dashwood, Joan Willoughby, and Joan Middleton. So don't get confused. She also has an acquaintance called Colonel Brandon, who is a very important character in the novel, and he is very much in love with Marianne. He is the guardian of Eliza, the daughter of a woman he previously cared for. There's backstory here before the events of the novel. If you would like to discuss that, please do so in the comments. Now the setting. The setting, as you know, is 19th century Regency England. First up, Norland Park, the Dashwoods' home at Sussex, which is inherited by Joan Dashwood. Next we have Barton Park, an estate located at Devonshire and owned by Sir John Middleton, who is a relative to Mrs. Dashwood, by the way, and he is the one who offers her the use of the cottage at his estate. And so we have Barton Cottage, and that's where Mrs. Dashwood and her daughters moved. Also we have Combe Magna at Ellingham in Devonshire, which is owned by Mrs. Smith, and it is the estate that Willoughby is supposed to inherit. There's Long Staple Mr. Pratt's place near Plymouth, where Edward met Lucy. Finally, there's the mention of the estate at Delaford, which is owned by Colonel Brandon. If you like this video, like and subscribe so that I would know that you want to see more of that.